What documents are required when applying for a Schengen visa? The following list of documents are required for any short-term Schengen visa application. Visa application form. Fully completed and signed. 2 recently taken photos must be attached. Both photos must be taken within the last 3 months, according to the visa photo requirements. A valid passport. Not older than 10 years, and it should valid for at least 3 more months beyond the date you plan to leave Schengen area. Older passports with visas on them, if you have any. Round-trip reservation or itinerary. It must include dates and flight numbers specifying entry and exit from the Schengen area. You can use the visa consultation services like this one. These guys can handle most of your visa requirements such as flight itineraries, hotel reservations along with free consultation over email. Travel insurance policy. A document that proves you have travel health insurance for the whole Schengen territory, with a minimum coverage of €30,000 in case of any medical emergency as illnesses, accidents and even repatriation in case of death. The insurance policy can easily be purchased online from AXA Schengen or Europe Assistance. Proof of accommodation. A document that shows where you will be accommodated throughout your stay in Schengen. This can be one of the following: a hotel, hostel booking, a rental agreement, a letter of invitation from a host at whose house you will be staying, proof of financial means. Evidence that you have enough money to support yourself financially throughout your stay in the Schengen. This can be one of the following: bank account statement, that shows you have enough money in your account for the trip. The statement shall be no older than 3 months. Sponsorship letter, by another person that confirms they will be financially supporting your trip to the Schengen. In order for this letter to be valid, it must be accompanied by a bank statement of the sponsor, no older than 3 months. A combination of your bank account statement and a letter of sponsorship, along with the aforementioned generally required documents. Schengen embassies around the world require some specific documents from the visa candidates depending on their employment status, as well as several additional documents depending upon the type of Schengen visa applied for. Schengen visa requirements according to applicant's employment status. Specific required documents, based on visa applicant's employment status, are as following. For employees, employment contract, current bank statement of the latest 6 months, leave permission from the employer, income tax return, ITR, form or certificate of income tax deducted at the source of salary. For the self-employed, a copy of your business license, company bank statement of the latest 6 months, income tax return, ITR. For students, proof of enrollment, no objection letter from school, university. For retirees, pension statement of the latest 6 months. If unemployed and married to an EU citizen, confirmation of employment letter, no older than 3 months. From their spouse's employer, stating the position held within the company as well as the starting date. Spouse's valid passport, an official marriage certificate. Documents required when applying for a visa: to visit relatives or friends. The additional required documents to obtain a Schengen visa: to visit relatives, friends are: affidavit of support, in case one does not have a bank account or does not own enough funds to be taking care of their expenses during this travel. One must ask the visiting friends or relatives to sign an official affidavit of support at the corresponding office in his/her place of residence. Make sure you carry the original document when applying for the visa. Travel itinerary. The applicant's description of their trip, the purpose of traveling, the time frame and all the personal date written down in a letter. Means of subsistence. If the applicant declares that he/she will be covering all the travel expenses, Proof of one's financial status is requested otherwise if the relative friend is to cover the applicant's expenses. A formal document issued by the competent authorities to a resident of a Schengen country, the friend, relative in this case, is to be submitted. Letter of invitation by the relative friend residing in a Schengen country. If the applicant will be covering the expenses on his/her own, the relative's friend's name, address and the copy of their passport will suffice. In case that the friend, relative is not a citizen of this Schengen country, the copy of the residency permit will also be required. Documents required when applying for a tourist visa. The additional required documents to obtain Schengen visa for tourism purposes are: bank statement, preferably for the last 6 months. Affidavit of support, in case one does not have a bank account or does not own enough funds to be taking care of their expenses during this travel. One must ask the visiting friends or relatives to sign an official affidavit of support at the corresponding office in his/her place of residence. Make sure you carry the original document when applying for the visa. Travel itinerary. The applicant's description of their trip, the purpose of traveling, the time frame and all the personal date written down in a letter, as well as hotel reservations or a formal invitation letter from a resident of a Schengen country. Documents required when traveling to Europe for the purpose of studying. The additional required documents to obtain a Schengen student visa: 2 application forms instead of 1. Letter of acceptance at an EU university, college, school. Proof of financial means. Documents that show one is able to reside and financially maintain him/herself during their stay in the Schengen zone. Documents required when traveling to Europe for the purpose of employment. The additional required documents to obtain a Schengen working visa: 2 application forms instead of 1. Employment contract. Contract between the applicant and the future employer residing in the Schengen territory. Schengen visa application requirements. When applying for a visa to Europe, you will have to submit some required documents as part of the Schengen visa application process. The Schengen states have created a list of the required documents for each purpose of entry in this territory, and these requirements are approximately the same for stay in each of them. In this article, you can find a checklist of the generally required documents to obtain a Schengen visa, as well as the specific required documents for each visa type. In addition, you will also find a short brief for each requirement and their specifications.